guys, welcome to another Tech Tip Tuesday. On this Tuesday's Tech Tip, I'm going to talk about something that I see a lot of people overlooking when it comes to racing and that's staging. It's come about, I've kind of been thinking about it for a couple weeks. I've got a chassis in here where I can show you guys some staging and how it's working, so I thought it was a good opportunity. And then last week, some conversation on social media come about somebody being way better at cutting on the Pro Tree versus anybody else. And so I thought, well, if that's the case, then let's teach some other people how to cut really good lights. So this week I just want to share with you some staging things, some things I see people doing maybe incorrectly as far as staging, and talk through these processes about what they're doing and what they can do better. And also I want to share with you on how to cut better reaction times. If you have a straight drive, most of you Volkswagen guys have straight drives, or your import guys. So I've got Brandy's car in here. I'm going to show you how we adjust her travel in such a way that she can cut really good lights when she's leaving at the drag strip, when she's staged, and that whole process. So I'm going to walk through first her deal, and then I want to share with you some staging procedure, things that people could do better when they're doing their staging procedures. So I'm going to share that with you, and hopefully that'll help you. And I hope you enjoy this week. I just thank you again for just the information and the feedback you guys have given me, especially this past week. I've talked to a lot of you guys about the head gaskets and the head studs and just how we're doing things to make more power. And I really appreciate that feedback. I enjoy talking to you guys. So stay tuned. We're going to show you some footage here in just a second about how to do some better staging.
All right, so we're in Brandy's 2001 Golf. It's got the VR6, just like we're running Blitzkrieg in the fastback. Just to give you an example of how to adjust your pedal travel so you can cut better extra times and be able to shift better. If you look right here, we have this carriage bolt in here. I do have it tweaked a little bit, and you'll understand why here in just a second. And it's also adjustable. So as you get a little bit of clutch wear, you know, your pedal wants to go further to the floor, you can adjust out for that to compensate for it, to continue cutting your good reaction times. So if you watch when the pedal goes in, you see why I've got it bent now. It's to meet the angle of the pedal. But instead of me having to push the pedal all the way back into here, in this area, I'm stopping here. Now the pedal will push all the way back into here, but what we're doing is reducing the travel. And what you want to do is, you basically want the car right here to just barely be wanting to pull. So like if you're staging, you're having to hold the brake just a little bit. You want it to drag just very little. But if it's dragging just a little bit, when you're here, you're already starting to engage it. So therefore, you're gonna get a better reaction time. In the dragster, we can do that through clutch adjustments. But basically, that's how I'm staging the dragster when I go in. I don't necessarily have a stop, but I'm just dragging the clutch and the brake at the same time. And when the car starts dragging in, I just let it drag me in and I grab the brake. And a lot of people, when they get in, they'll push it on in. But if you can keep your foot where it's at, then you're right there. You're talking about minuscule amount of travel. And that's basically what we're doing here. I've got it adjusted so this right here is barely dragging in, and she holds it in with the brake. All right. Now for clutch wear, for long term, yes, that's not a good idea. But we're talking about racing and trying to get the best reaction time we can, and for shifting gears. So if you notice also, it's bang a gear, bang a gear, bang a gear, instead of having to go all the way back into here, where the brake pedal would travel to. We're stopping here because at this point the clutch is released. There's no point pushing it all the way back in. So here, clutch is released, so we stop it here. And again, if you can get it to where it just barely drags in on stage, again, you can basically flinch your foot and it's going to be engaged. And that's going to help with your reaction time, get those reaction times down. Brandy's had reaction times in here of 020, 030. You know, it's the VR6, but it's not souped up like ours. It's making about 440 horsepower. You know, it's not having crazy 60 foots, and she's leaving basically at a crawl. You know, banging gears, it helps her because she doesn't have to push that clutch pedal all the way in. So it helps a lot. She can have 00 to teen lights if she wants to, but she usually sets up for 30 to 40. Usually that's pretty decent for any import racing or Volkswagen racing that she wants to do. So this is inside Brandy's car, and again, just hope this helps you guys. on being able to cut better reaction times.
Okay guys, so I've got this chassis here, of course it has no body on it, so it makes it easier to show you guys what I wanted to express to you guys about staging. A lot of guys, you know, they're backing up from the burnout, they're pulling up, and then there's this guy or girl in front of them and they're pointing to go left or right as they're pulling forward. What I want to show you guys is once you start pulling forward, you should just pick your line and move straight forward. And there's a reason for that. But before we get started, I want you to look at this tire right here. If you notice, we've labeled each tire, the edge of the tire with some painter's tape, just so you have a reference to see what I'm trying to explain. So now we're going to roll the car forward, and just imagine that you're pulling to the staging beams, and there's somebody in front of you and they're saying, hey, steer to the right and then come back to the left. So you see that's what we've done. But what I want to show you guys is if you look at our marks again, you'll notice that the front here has moved almost 3.5 inches to the right. But at the back, we barely moved an inch. We're barely even covering that 3/4 tape. So the back tire has moved 1/2 inch. And what I want to express to you guys, moving over while moving forward into the beams doesn't gain you anything as far as putting your rear tire back into a groove. And what it does, you're actually now pointing 2 inches to the right. So when you launch your car, you're not going to be going straight down the track. You're going to be, if you're in the right lane, you're going to be heading toward the right guardrail. If you're in the left lane, you're going to be heading toward the center line. Well, what that's going to do is going to pull you out of the groove, which is going to cost you some ET. But it's also going to distract you, and you're going to have to steer back into the center of the groove, which also is going to cost you some ET. If you're carrying the front wheels, you're going to have to really lift because you can wind up in the wall. So the reason I want to show you this deal about the lining up is several weeks ago I was standing behind a car just watching them see how they were doing. And again, they were pulling up, they're in the right hand lane, they're pulling up, they had about 2 feet before they get to the beams, and the person up front is telling them to cut to their right. Of course they cut to the right and then they bring them back, but just like you saw in the video, the front end has moved 2.5 to 3.5 inches, the back tire is still pretty much sitting in that same spot where they were sitting before. The problem is the car is now facing to the right. And in that process, when the car leaves, this car is known for carrying wheels on down the track. And when it leaves, it stands straight up and heads straight for the guardrail. Luckily, he got out of it. He landed right next to her. I'm talking 3 to 4 inches from hitting the guardrail. Got back on the track and got in it. But of course, by that time, he's already lost the race. So you guys, when you're backing up from your burnout, again, like I was discussing several weeks ago in the video about the little mirror I have, I'm picking that spot way down track, not right in front of you. You have to pick the spot, center of the groove, down track, and back up. It is good to have somebody help you and guide you back to make sure you are in the groove, but when you start moving forward, you need to come straight. I've had somebody, when I'm running the top-out dragster is over 20 feet long, so it's not even moving as much as the chassis we just showed you here. So they're telling me to steer one way and steer back. Well, I pretty much ignore them because I know if I follow what they're telling me, I'm going to be facing in the wrong direction. And when you're running a 4,000 horsepower car and it launches and you're less than a second on a 60 foot, you have to be straight. But it's the same deal with if you have a 160 60 foot or a 2 second 60 foot. If your car is going crooked, it's going to cost you time. And in drag racing, every 10th, 100th, minuscule thousandth of a second is important, especially when you're trying to get all you can out of your car. So if you've got a straight drive, just remember you can adjust it out so you do not have that much travel, and it will help your reaction time, and it'll also help you in your shifting. And when you're staging, remember, always pull forward and pull straight. Do not steer once you started pulling forward. The difference you think you're going to make up trying to move around is not worth the risk of going crooked and losing the race. So that's this week's 2 tech tips for staging. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments, please message me down below. And also, as always, be sure to like, share, and we appreciate it. Talk to you next week.